Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to the Gentle Art of Crushing It podcast. My name's Randy Smith, and I'm going to be your host today. Really excited to have Keith Borie with us. Keith is a sales professional in cemetery and funeral sales. He's the founder of Bobo Capital Ventures, which focuses on mobile homes. And he is also a real estate broker and a podcast host of The Wealth Flow. So, Keith, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here.
Happy to be here, Randy. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in, Keith. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and how you found yourself as a cemetery and funeral sales guy and a real estate investor?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So, I started kind of in the real estate space years ago. Going through college, I always tell people that I was supposed to be majoring in civil engineering and architecture. And I did a little bit of that, but I also majored in having a really good time. And so didn't quite finish college the first go around. And so getting out of that, I had some sales jobs and eventually made my way into being a real estate agent. And went from there. That kind of cut my teeth on some real estate. And interesting enough, just kind of full circle, I started actually, before becoming a real estate agent, worked for a company called Cafco Homes, which is a mobile home manufacturer. Yeah. So in doing that, you're always trying to find spots to be able to place those homes. And so that exposed me to a lot of real estate agents because I'd have to call them to try to find land. And so that just sort of turned me on to that avenue of career path, I guess you could say.
Sure.
So I did that for years, leading up to 2007. Started with Coldwell Banker, then about 3 years in, opened up my own brokerage, Newcastle Real Estate. Which we still have today on a kind of a smaller scale. I've got some agents that have kind of been with me through the years. They're more on a part-time basis, but do still have that. Ran through the 2007, 2008 timeframe, and really sort of lost my shirt. Lost my marriage at the time. I went through some financial difficulty. I saw some of the issues with having 100% of your income tied at that particular point in time to real estate, and it was almost like somebody turned the faucet off with my income. We specialized in we're really working higher end acreage subdivisions where people would build custom homes, and I'd list the properties. I'd work with the people on connecting them with builders, so I'd get commissions on kind of both sides of that. And that worked really, really well for a while. Then lending tightened up. Most people that remember 2008, remember just they were giving loans to anyone and everyone, and there was some truth to that. There was a lot of no employment verification, no income verification. That wasn't necessarily who all we were specializing in. It was mainly, you could do back then, you could build a custom home and buy a home for doing an 80-20 loan, which was basically zero down, just paying closing costs. And those programs went away for a little bit during that time frame. And so it didn't cut the people out of the market that were necessarily just building their retirement home, but it turned a lot of the clientele off there for a little while. And so it was a rough patch. During that time frame, we worked our way through it. I didn't end up losing any properties that we had at that time had a rental property that we ended up having to sell. We had our primary residence that we got a little behind on, so kind of destroyed my credit during that time frame. But we were able to sell it and get out. Had a bank building that I owned with a partner of mine, but it wasn't in my name. That one did go back to the owner, but needless to say, rough patch. Learned a lot of lessons. Good experience now looking back, hindsight, being able to look back and just kind of take some of the lessons from it. But certainly no fun to go through at the time. That's what led me to the cemetery and funeral business. I ended up going back to school, got my bachelor's. My brother at the time was a sales manager for a copy company, Konica Minolta. And he survived all that. He did not weather, that storm the same way that I did. And so I thought, well, once I graduate, I'm going to become a sales manager for a company. And so just after I got graduated, just applied for a bunch of different companies. Really didn't remember applying. I know that's terrible to say now because I always ask, when I'm interviewing sales managers, I'm always asking them, how did you find out about us? Tell us a little bit of, at the time, I'm not sure what I said, but I kind of skated around that question because I have no idea. I didn't know it was a cemetery funeral company. Didn't think I'd work here long term by any means. I thought I was going to decorate my resume and then head on to some bigger and better stuff, but ended up falling in love with the business along the way. It's very rewarding. It's a different type of sales. And so, that really, that's what's kept. So I've been with that company for 15 years, started as a sales manager, worked my way up to a sales director, have a team of about 35 sales associates, and then another 11 sales managers that report to me. And we're in Texas and Georgia and Alabama.
Wow. Okay. That is, that's a heck of a path. 15 years. You don't hear of that all that often anymore, unless you're with very large corporate Americas. So that is impressive. And you've got a big sales team as well. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So, after I stabilized my, that company has done a lot. I mean, it's helped me, really become, in the financial position that I'm in now, coming from, a time frame where I was rebuilding my life. I'd gone through a divorce, rebuilding my credit. And as soon as I was able to buy again, I started my journey in real estate again. I always knew I wanted to get back into it. Bought a 3-unit and have a little bit of a funny story there. Before buying the 3-unit, I had made an offer on a 10-unit. And I was single at the time. So I thought, well, I could live in one of the units on the 10 unit. Not ideal, but certainly wanted to make sure that I put my money in a spot where it was going into an investment scenario. And the guy said, no way. I didn't have enough money down. I was asking him to owner finance it, and he basically shot me down. Got under contract with the 3-unit about 6 months later, was set to close on the 3-unit, and got a call from a buddy of mine who was running my real estate company at the time and happened to manage that 10-unit. He said, hey, I got a call from Harry. He said, is Keith still interested? And I'm like, oh crap, I'm right in the middle of buying this one. I'm like too far, into this one, about to close kind of thing. And so I pulled a little bit of money out of a 401k. And about a month later, closed on the 10-unit as well. So went from 0 units and 0 real estate to having 13 units. So that was kind of neat.
That's awesome.
And it was good.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped. And then from there, bought some duplexes and just kind of continued. Eventually, ended up selling the 10-unit and the 3-unit and all the duplexes. But anyway, that took me, Randy, really into the space that I'm in today.
Are you interested in real estate investing but don't know where to get started or think you don't have the time or money? Are you stuck in your W-2 because the golden handcuffs make it hard to walk away? If this sounds like you, check out impactequity.net and schedule some time to talk with the founder, Randy Smith. Randy went from massive income to leaving his W-2 through passive income, and he can help you do the same. www.impactequity.net.
And bought my first mobile home park during COVID, actually. Being still a real estate broker, part of my morning ritual is to jump on MLS and take a look at what's going on. And I'm always searching multifamily in this just happened to be a little 7-unit mobile home park that was showed up, and caught it day one on the market. Didn't right away pull the trigger with an offer. I waited a couple days, drove down to take a look at it, and then unfortunately found out it was under contract. But I thought, well, I'll throw a backup contract. In Texas, we have something called a backup contract. So you can deposit earnest money, and if something falls through on the first one, you have the position to be in first place after that, and they end up going with you. And that's what happened on this one. So it was a neat experience. It was one that needed a ton of turnaround. We did have city utilities and city sewer, and so that was good. But aside from that, it needed a lot of work. Had it for about a year and a half. Turned around and sold it. So some of the numbers kind of on that one, I did bought it for like 168. Put about $100,000 into it. So a lot of rehabs. This was all park-owned homes, which for those in the mobile home park space, there's a lot of times a distinction there. You don't often own the homes. Sometimes you just own the pads. And as you get into larger parks, that's really the goal. But on these smaller ones, it's pretty typical to have park-owned homes, and we did on this one. Turned it around and ended up selling it a year and a half later for $475. So did very well on that. And before I had sold that one, we bought another little one in the same general area. So we thought, well, we'll go from basically 7 units to this was a little 4-unit one. So now we're up to 11 units. So I thought, well, if I continue to kind of buy these small ones, we can package it up and maybe sell it as a portfolio. But it ended up kind of changing my mind on that and just selling that one. So for me, it was a full circle moment. Got an opportunity to go full circle on a deal. And the little 4-unit one is a great little property. We bought it actually for maybe about $10,000 more than we bought the 7-unit for. But have all the units for $900 a month, and the mortgage is about $900 a month, and very little taxes. Wow. It's a little bit south of San Antonio, Texas, in a little town called Jordanton. And taxes are pretty reasonable there compared to a lot of places in Texas. So anyway, cash flows nicely. Yeah.
So what's I feel like I want to go back. There's a lot of questions here, but what's the portfolio look like today?
Yeah, so today we still have the 4-unit. We've got a 20-unit. That's kind of the one we're in the middle of turnaround on. We've brought it from 50% occupancy to bought that in November, I should say, of just last year. So right before Christmas, and was out of the country for half of December. So didn't quite really getting our feet on the ground on that one until January. But we've taken it to about 75% occupancy. Here in about a month or so, we should be closer to 90%. And then we'll start looking at refining and pulling our money back out of that one around December, January timeframe.
Okay, so about a year in, then you do a refi. Okay.
Yep. So that'll be a good one. It's already we've built a ton of net operating income compared to where it was, and it'll be a good one. That one's going to be one we'll hold on to. I kind of regret even selling that original 7-unit one, but like I said, it was proof of concept. It was good for me to do just for that purpose, but it'd be nice to hold on to it. We also have a short-term rental. Kind of bought that with that shiny object syndrome. I hadn't quite finished. Did it for a couple reasons, right? We sold the one, and so we had some capital gains taxes that we were going to be paying that year. And kind of towards the end of the year, I was like, I wish I would have had an opportunity to buy something else. So we bought the short-term rental, kind of used a cost segregation study on that to offset our capital gains taxes. And that one's been okay. We were hoping it was going to cash flow, kind of a lifestyle investment is what I was thinking there. We have this one's up in the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina. And, we've thought, well, if this one goes well, maybe we'll get a property at the beach, that. and that may still work out at some point, but it didn't quite do as well our first year as we were hoping. We just about broke even on it. This year's going a little bit better, but have that one on the market to sell and on the rental market, just because we've got capital tied up in it, and I can use it somewhere where we didn't buy it as a second home. We bought it as an investment, right?
Sure. And you got all these dollars tied up to it that are not doing a lot for you, basically.
That's right. Okay. That's right. Exactly.
So, I mean, it's an awesome journey to hear how you've gone. And, being a sales professional myself, I did the active investing and then moved into passive investing, and now am helping bring other folks into passive investing. But I'm curious if we can go back and talk a little bit about, 2008, you basically got demolished, right? Like so many people did. I did as well. It sounds like we have a similar story there. I went through a divorce during that time period and had a lot of financial challenges as well. Can you talk about that rebuilding phase that you had? Like, you went back to school, you got the sales job. Was it, were you just paying everything off? Were you just kind of starting to accumulate dollars on the side? Like, what did that path look like?
Yeah. We didn't have as much because we were fortunate enough to not, have to file bankruptcy or any of that. We really didn't have a ton of, the first thing as things started to crumble, the first thing I let go were some credit cards. So but they were fairly small balances, probably maybe 10 grand on one, 5 grand on another. But that was when my credit started to kind of get destroyed. I just stopped, I was like, well, I got to pay on these other things because I've got equity in them. If I'm going to have to stop paying something, it's going to be something that I'm not, no recourse on it, no real recourse on it. And so anyway, we did that. So paying those off wasn't too big of a, along the journey, as I got stabilized, I was able to, get those knocked out and start turning my credit around, start to open up a little. And I can remember opening up another credit card, and the best I could do, and this was like a terrible credit card, but like $500, right?
Sure.
was my credit limit. And then just kind of
secured probably, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, going kind of through that process, I haven't really mentioned this I've mentioned this to a couple people, but not necessarily on a podcast. But yeah. I mean, when I got that job, I'll just, kind of put it into perspective. I literally, I had a vehicle, a truck that was paid off. And, I can remember waiting for that first paycheck for the W-2, and I had to get a car loan, what do you call it? Like a payday loan. With my car being the secure. I mean, I went from that, to, being in a position where, it's just totally different. It's amazing what can happen in 10 years, if you're just consistent and, so hopefully there's some, if somebody's going through something like that now, I mean, their brighter days are ahead, right? You just got to kind of don't get too caught up in the mistakes. I mean, I know a lot of times the later and later we are in life, we stumble through some of these things. We think we're never going to get back to where we were, but I not only have gotten back to that, I've gone well above and beyond that, in just a little 15-year journey. So.
And I think it's a powerful message. Like, I share with folks at times, like if you just stop making mistakes, like first and foremost, just stop making financial mistakes and then gradually start building. Like the momentum you can get if you're in a position where you have the ability to make good W-2 income. You start to get smart with those. Maybe, if you're working alongside people that are making a lot of money, the tendency is to to compare notes and buy houses and buy expensive cars and buy boats and do all this other stuff. But if you can be smart with your money, literally for 5 years, you're going to be able to go beyond probably 80% of society just by being smart with the dollars that you're getting. And when you start to couple that with either active or passive real estate investing, it becomes just exponential at that point. And you had that point where, you got a couple $100,000 into a deal that turns into almost $500,000. That's a game changer. That can change the direction of your whole life. For sure. And clearly, since then, you've gone gone wild with it, which is fantastic. So now it looks like you've done a bunch of different things in real estate. You've done short-term rental, you've done mobile home, small multi, I would call it medium multi as well. And it sounds like you're focused now on mobile home parks. What is it about mobile home parks that attracted you? And what are you finding now that you're in the space that tells you that's better than going after some of these other asset classes?
Yeah. First thing I would say as far as being better or not, I think at some point you kind of gotta, what I didn't mention too, is I had a flip last year as well. I mean, we did the short-term rental kind of at the very end of 2022, then a flip kind of at the beginning that did not go well. That one didn't go well timing wise. It just took us too long to get our ducks in a row with contractors and whatnot. And, just was a learning lesson as well. So I'm still learning, to stay in my lane and really stay focused. So I think I don't know if one is better than the other. Here's what I like about mobile home parks. Number one, it's one of the true affordable housings that's left out there. Unlike apartments, one thing that I find our tenant base likes is that they've got a little bit of a yard. They don't have somebody that they're sharing a wall with. One thing that impressed me on the first couple, this last one I bought, there's a little bit more as far as the kids and everything in the park, children. But the first one I bought, it just really impressed me because that one I did a lot of hands-on work. A lot of the rehab stuff I was doing myself. In conjunction with other people, but I was out there spending a lot of time. I'd see the kids getting dropped off like in front of the mobile home park, and it was really a community. There was one lady that worked 2 jobs. Her kids would play with the kids down the street until she was able to get off her job. And it was kind of a neat little scenario. Now, not all of them are like that, right? I mean, the one that I'm in now, the one that we're in the middle of rehabbing, there's not as many kids. It's a lot of older folks at the front of it. Towards the back is where we've got some kids, but I can still see some of that community. A lot of them talk with each other. It's just neat. It's neat to see. There's also kind of park settings. We got trees. We've got people barbecuing and it's a neat little setting. And this last one that I bought in particular backs in San Antonio a little creek called Salado Creek, and there's a running trail, there's biking trails that run along Salado Creek, actually all the way up to the north side of San Antonio. And so it's really kind of just a little it's a cool little park from that standpoint. The other thing I like about it, Randy, a little different than maybe larger apartments. There are still smaller apartment complexes, as you know, that are still owned by mom and pop or smaller investors or older investors that have had them for years and years. And not to say you can't find that on a larger apartment complex, but there's a lot more, it seems, of the market that's segmented in that fashion when it comes to mobile home parks. We still have a lot of mom and pop owners. In fact, the one that we just closed on, it was actually developed by these folks' dad. The mom was still alive. She is, kind of has dementia, so the kids took care of everything for her. So I really worked with the children when it comes to the purchase of the property. But, it was a prime example of that where somebody had started something. This was their baby. He used to have an office out there. The kids kind of second generation didn't do as well with, maintaining it. So there was some opportunity there. And so I still see some of that. I still see the cap rates are a little bit higher on mobile home parks. They're not quite as compressed. Although, it has certainly over the last several years, and even before I got in, things, the heyday was really, it always seems to be about 5 to 10 years before I get into it, right? Where the really high cap rates on it. But no, I still find that there's still some really good opportunity there. The other thing that I like is I've got a formula. I've got a certain style that I'm looking for.
Okay.
Some of it could just be, lot rents that have not been kept up with the market. Mom and pop owned it for years. People are paying. They don't, feel like they should bring it up. Maybe on the new ones that they're renting to, they're increasing that lot rent, but you still got a big base of people that you have the ability to increase. On the rents, we can really push those. We can manage them. One of the biggest things I find, and I think this is even true with, some of the small multifamily, but certainly on the mobile home park space. I don't think the owners do a really good job of vetting the tenants and making sure that we've got that. So I'm kind of working through that on the 20 unit right now, where I had to didn't have to go all the way through with it, but I had to start the eviction process with somebody. Every other time throughout the last since I've had rental property, I've been able to tell somebody, hey, I've been able to invite them to move out, basically, and just say, hey, look, you could move out. I don't want to destroy your credit. I don't want to do something. This is the first time I've actually had to go into the process where, we got all the way up until the court date. And the court date got postponed for reasons I won't go into on this, but, got postponed for a week, which allowed me an opportunity to get with the lady and just say, hey, look, this was one that she owned the house. She was able to sell me the house. I was able to give her some money to be able to walk away with. And, we worked it out. But she probably never would have been rented to begin with if I would have just taken her through the process. It's just the prior owner kind of said, okay, you got a deposit. Okay. So, I'm finding some of that. So if you do a proper job, of making sure that you verify the income, that's the biggest thing with me. And, I don't pull credit scores, but I do look for judgments. I look for, rental history. And if they can verify their income, show me that they have steady work history, and some rental history. And then of course we run a background check for criminal background check. But aside from those couple things, if we, verify those, our chances that we're going to have a tenant that's going to be good is good. And then the last thing I would point out is just the stickiness of the clientele. On the park owned homes, maybe not quite as much, but you think of the pads rentals, when they're bringing in their home or they're buying one from me, and they have pride of ownership because they're buying the home. They own it, and to move these things is expensive. And so, when I looked at my small multifamily, I had quite a few. I had pretty good luck there as well, with people being fairly sticky and staying for multiple years. But some, I would say maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years was about average at the small multifamily. With this, we've got people that have literally been in that park for over 20 years. And, still now we're about to have to raise the lot rent. And so we'll see, what happens with that. But, these are folks that own their home and they've been there. They raised their kids. And so you got a little bit more stickiness when it comes to clientele.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's an asset class I'm interested in. In fact, it was my first passive investment was in mobile home.
Cool.
Because the affordable housing issue is something that is ever present and will be for probably decades to come. And it seems like even apartments are getting to a point where they're almost overpriced when you start looking at income to rent ratios. So, it sounds to me like you really bring kind of a personal touch to the business and to the communities as well. And it seems like you care about the tenants and creating a good environment for them, which I think is important. And as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, I think it gets harder to do those types of things. So yeah, hats off to you for keeping that present in what you're doing there. So
yeah, thank you so much.
So what do you see the next few years for the business? Are you in acquisitions mode? Do you think there's still opportunity out there today?
There is, and yes, we are. We're currently not raising outside capital on anything, but we are buying one more, at least one more. We may joint venture on the next one. Just kind of depends. But then the one after that will be the one that we start raising for. So that's kind of what I'm gearing up for. I'm a firm believer, Randy, that I want to have it dialed in. And as we get larger and larger parks, it helps my wife and I kind of run this business. It allows us to really get things as dialed in as possible, see what works, see what doesn't work. When we don't have investor money up, other people's money up at risk, basically. And so, we'd like to do one more after this 20 unit. The 20 units going as planned. And so, that's a confidence booster. It's allowed us also to shift platforms. We're on a little bit more of a robust property management software and accounting software than we were, kind of on these prior ones. So that's kind of helping us to kind of put the platform in place that we're going to need when we start to scale and start to, raise capital and really go forward. So.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, neat journey. It sounds like you've found your asset class that you're going to expand with if you can not get distracted by all these other little fun things that we run across, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, I think we all struggle with that. I've done the same thing, as has probably anybody that's in the space. But it sounds like you're really honing in on a very specific type of asset class and even the size and all of that as well. So. Very cool. Well, yeah, thank you, Keith, for walking us through your journey. It's inspiring to hear another, W-2 guy that found real estate investing and it's changed the trajectory of your life and your family. So that's fantastic, Keith. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much, Randy. Appreciate it.
Cool. Well, let's, if we can, I know we're at about a half an hour, but I do have a few questions I'd like to ask everybody. If you still have a few moments, would love to jump into those. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So for folks that are trying to learn more about this space, trying to get educated, do you have any books or podcasts that you would recommend to the audience?
Yeah, Mobile Home Mastery. It's Frank Roth has that podcast. It's a shorter one, but he also has Mobile Home University and Mobile Home Park University. And that's another one. He has a boot camp that, I took the virtual one because we took it during COVID timeframe. And he has a mastermind as well. And the mastermind, meets in person. So we've done a couple different times where we've met. We've actually been to Frank's house and, had an opportunity to meet with him a couple different times. So that's been really good. He's got a wealth of information. And just has been in the business. He's, it fluctuates, but he's anywhere from the 5th to the 8th largest owner of mobile home parks in the U.S. So, yeah, so that's a good one. And then, there's a couple of the ones that I started with. There's Glenn Easterson that works for Marcus and Millichap in the mobile home park space. But he's got a book called The Mobile Home Park Manifesto. But he also has, some courses and stuff that you can take, to learn as far as underwriting, that kind of thing. Same with Frank's courses. A lot of it, they cover everything from the history of the mobile home parks to, underwriting and stuff. So
interesting. Okay. Yeah. No, those are good. Very specific to the mobile home space. Okay. Yeah, very good. So I'm curious, as you move into this capital raising, potentially into bringing on investor capital. Due diligence, obviously, is an extremely important part for passive investors. Can you think of questions that you would be asking that would be important in this space that are maybe unique to the mobile home operating space, or any due diligence expertise you can share?
Yeah, I think, I don't know that this is specific to the mobile home park space, but, I think really just understanding the operator, what's their experience? Have they gone full cycle on deals? And, that obviously being somebody who's striving to get to a spot where we're raising capital, full cycle to me means, taking a property, doing the turnaround on it, and whatever the next step is, whether that be refinancing out and holding it, whether that be selling it like we did with the first one that we had. But, really, what have they done so far? Do they have it dialed in? The more experience that you can get, because you're really betting, as they say, on the jockey, not necessarily the horse or the deal. The other thing I would just say is, don't always look so much at the returns that are on the PowerPoint.
Right.
It's easy to juice the returns and make them look a lot better with higher leverage, with those kind of things. But ultimately, preservation of capital is huge when it comes to an operator, and you want to be on a deal that's going to be safe, that's going to have that opportunity for growth. But ultimately, you want to make sure you get your money back. Along with the returns, but you want to make sure you get your money back. So, just pay attention to that side of things as well.
A good point. Like I joke at times, I think that somebody sold an investor presentation deck that was, 3 to 5 year returns, 20% average annual return, 2x equity multiple. Like everybody has the same terms, so
right, exactly.
Yeah. Very good. All right. And now a couple of fun questions here. You and I are both involved in a community that talks about bucket list items. So I'm curious, do you have any recent bucket list items you've checked off your list, or any you hope to in the near future?
Yeah, we did a trip recently. So travel is a big bucket list for my wife and I. So, we've been to Thailand, we've been to Singapore, just all over. And that was definitely a bucket list trip. The most recent one, though, was, which I didn't necessarily realize I was going to enjoy as much as I did, but was Argentina. We kind of traveled. Argentina is a huge country, as far as the size, and we actually went in August, because that's typically when we'll do trips, it's wintertime there. And so we went snow skiing.
No kidding.
And a couple different spots where we went snow skiing. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful trip. And I highly recommend it to everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
So Patagonia region down there as well. We went to that. It was an amazing trip. Well worth it.
Yeah. I don't hear that often. Patagonia I hear of, but Argentina, we'll have to put that on the list. My wife and I love to travel as well. So thank you for sharing that. That is, that will get added to the bucket list. All right. And then kind of the final fun question I ask everybody is, if as a passive investor, you had $100,000 you had to place into a deal, but you couldn't invest in one of your own deals, where would you place that capital?
I've got similar. So I've got friends, just like we all have friends that are in this space. I've got a probably Devin Elder, just because friends with them. My wife and I had an opportunity to go with him and his wife. He's got a helicopter and a plane, and we took his plane down to Belize. I've learned a lot from him. He's in our local pod, and so we have an opportunity to talk quite a bit. But anyway, probably would invest with him. He's really he focuses mainly in the San Antonio area, but really has his business dialed in. So
awesome. Okay. And what asset class is that?
Multifamily. So he's doing a little bit of industrial as well now, but I'd more so place on the multifamily. He also does some ranch, where they'll buy big ranches and then subdivide those into smaller plots. Yeah. So it's got a wide variety of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a helicopter and a plane, so why not? Right?
I mean, it's kind of the cool. It's like that's what I want to have when I grow up. It's like
there you go,
just the ability to just jump in the plane and go on vacation. So
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing. This was fun to get to know you and what you're doing. Keith, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoyed it, Randy. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. To the audience, as always, we encourage you to continue your education journey. But more importantly than that, we encourage you to make the decision to make that first investment, whether it's passive or active. Both Keith and I are convinced that once you do, you will wish that you had started sooner. So thanks so much for joining us again today. And be sure to join us again next Thursday for another great episode. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.